Crushed by costs, inflation rises again, millions falling behind. Inflation in Canada has once again surged, sending fresh shockwaves through households already stretched thin. For millions of Canadians, these economic pressures are not just abstract numbers. They're deeply personal and immediate. It's the anxiety of checking your grocery receipt and realizing that staples like milk, eggs, and bread now cost double what they did a few years ago. It's opening a utility bill and wondering how you'll make rent this month. It's skipping meals so your kids can eat. Across the country, people are being financially squeezed, and many are starting to feel they're slipping beyond recovery. Since the April 2025 snap election, where Mark Carney became Prime Minister following his victory as Liberal leader, the economy has remained at the heart of national anxiety. Carney entered office on promises of sound financial management and expert leadership, bolstered by his experience running central banks in Canada and the UK. Canadians hoped his technocratic approach would calm the storm. But instead of relief, many feel abandoned. Despite a flurry of announcements from Ottawa, inflation continues to rise. People were promised stability. What they're getting is instability with a polished tone. The current surge in inflation is being driven by both global pressures and domestic challenges. While pandemic-related disruptions have eased somewhat, energy prices remain volatile, affecting everything from fuel to transportation costs. Domestic supply chains are still adjusting, and key sectors like food processing and housing construction are struggling to keep up with demand. On top of that, climate-related events such as floods and droughts are disrupting harvests, pushing grocery prices even higher. These compounding issues are no longer distant. They're showing up at the checkout, in rent increases, and in everyday life. One of the most devastating impacts of inflation is on housing. In cities across Canada, the cost of rent has become unbearable. Vacancy rates are at historic lows, and new construction is lagging far behind what's needed. Even modest apartments are now out of reach for many middle-income earners, let alone low-income Canadians. Families are doubling up in small units, students are living in unsafe conditions, and seniors are being forced out of neighborhoods they've called home for decades. Home ownership, once considered part of the Canadian dream, now feels like a cruel joke to an entire generation shut out by soaring prices and crushing mortgage rates. In response, the Carney government has introduced several economic measures, including eliminating the consumer carbon tax and reducing income taxes for lower and middle-income Canadians. First-time homebuyers have been granted temporary GST exemptions, and infrastructure spending has been promised to help municipalities fast-track housing. But many Canadians say these changes barely scratch the surface. The pace of implementation is slow, and the immediate relief is minimal. For someone deciding between rent and groceries, a future tax credit offers little comfort. The gap between policy talk and real-world impact is growing. Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives have used every opportunity to hammer the government on its handling of the economy. Poilievre argues that excessive government spending and burdensome regulations are choking growth and driving up costs. He's called for a complete overhaul of energy and housing policy, focusing on cutting red tape, unleashing resource development, and scaling back what he calls ideological experiments. His message resonates with Canadians who feel that government is too slow, too bureaucratic, and too disconnected from everyday struggles. For many, Poilievre offers the sharp contrast to business-as-usual politics they've been looking for. Jagmeet Singh and the New Democrats have pushed a different narrative, one that centers on the need for expanded public services. Singh argues that inflation hurts the most vulnerable and that the best response is to strengthen Canada's social safety net. He continues to advocate for universal pharmacare, affordable housing programs, expanded childcare, and stronger income supports. In his view, temporary tax breaks won't shield Canadians from rising costs, structural change will. His calls for bold investment strike a chord with progressives and working-class voters, though critics question how the NDP would fund such programs in a constrained fiscal environment. Yves-François Blanchet and the Bloc Québécois have remained focused on Quebec's regional interests, but have also joined the broader call for affordability. Blanchet has emphasized the need to respect Quebec's autonomy while supporting pragmatic economic reforms. His push for flexible federal programs that consider provincial differences has earned support among Quebecers who want both protection and responsiveness. While less visible nationally, the Bloc's position is shaping minority government dynamics and influencing how far the Liberals can go with their economic agenda. The debates in April were intense and set the stage for the economic narrative that now dominates Canadian politics. Carney came across as polished and professional, but at times seemed disconnected from the pain experienced by everyday Canadians. Poilievre was combative, hammering the Liberals for what he described as years of fiscal mismanagement. Singh focused on moral clarity, repeatedly highlighting the injustice of growing inequality. Blanchette pressed for respect and results for Quebec. The debates made it clear. The fight over how to fix Canada's economy isn't just political, it's personal. Inflation isn't just hurting people's wallets, it's reshaping lives. Seniors are stretching fixed pensions beyond their limits. Parents are sacrificing their own meals to feed their children, and young workers are giving up on ever owning a home.
Consumer debt is rising.
Food bank use has reached record levels. Small businesses are closing because customers can no longer afford discretionary spending. This isn't an isolated crisis, it's a national reckoning. What was once considered manageable inflation has now morphed into a full-blown cost-of-living emergency. The government insists that long-term plans are underway, modernizing the energy sector, expanding housing supply, and reforming internal trade to boost efficiency. Yet timelines stretch years into the future, while Canadians suffer today. Political promises are clashing with daily realities. People aren't just asking for vision anymore, they're demanding results. Policy that sounds good on paper isn't enough. Voters want to feel the impact at the pharmacy counter, at the gas pump, and at the kitchen table. As the cost of living continues to rise, Canada finds itself at a crossroads. The expectations placed on Mark Carney and his government are immense. His credentials bought him time, but that time is running out. Public patience is wearing thin. Pierre Poilievre is gaining momentum with a more confrontational tone, while Singh offers an alternative built on equity and expansion. Each party frames the crisis differently, but Canadians know this much. The pressure is real, the struggle is deep, and millions are quietly slipping through the cracks. The months ahead will define the trajectory of this government and possibly the political future of the country. Canadians are watching closely, not just for speeches but for signs of tangible progress. As inflation rises again and the weight of daily expenses grows heavier, one thing is certain: people are tired of waiting. They are crushed by costs and they want action not later, but now.